Hey everyone, today we're going to learn some tips and tricks on how I color my superhero, the Alpha, and we can turn this to this. Hope you enjoy the video. When it comes to drawing and when it comes to coloring, you have to think about two factors, your lights and your darks. And digitally, the one advantage we have over traditionally is that we can divide them into layers. And I'm using Photoshop, but it's the same terminology with Clip Studio Paint or any other program. So you usually want to start with your flats. And Alpha's mask is like a dark gray right there. And here's one little tip I use when I color. I always divide them into layers like I said earlier. And I just color it. But then you say, hey Joel, that's a mistake. No, it's not. I use my multiply tool and I managed to keep all my lines. And essentially I just use that for all my flats. So I just color the mask right here. And okay, so these are the flats, as the name implies to it, just the bare colors of it. So now we're trying to three-dimensionalize the drawing, make it pop out. So I usually like starting with the darks, the shadows, as I named it there. Always lock your layers so you don't get confused. So you slide your color to black, you use the color black. So we'll go under the earlobe right here. There's usually a shadow behind it, and you use the color black. And you're like, hey Joel, this is black, that kind of doesn't work. Yeah, I know. So you use the opacity, you bring it down to whatever time of day it is. Let's say this was, I haven't drawn a background, but let's say this was daylight, so it's not gonna be that dark. So the shadows are not gonna be that dark either. But if it's nighttime, you'll create those shadows to be darker. Like I said, it all depends what's the setting of the character. You gotta see what the light is at, where's the light coming from. I have my imaginary light coming from the top, right? So it's beaming down towards him. So it makes sense everything up here is brighter than everything down here. And you can kind of see already, like, the drawing started three-dimensionalizing itself. So I'll go down the suit right here, make like a little line. And I go down there, and I just box that out. I also like doing this thing, especially if I'm drawing on a blank page. Just making the shadows go a little bit over the drawing, just to give it kind of like that drop shadow look. Make it pop out like that. I always like incorporating that into my drawings a bit. It's all style at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be exactly accurate. It's a comic book. Comic books are supposed to be cartoonish and fun. As long as you're in the ballpark, you'll be fine. So I just go up there, circle around, bring it down. No, it's not going to be pretty because I'm rushing for the video. So if you have long hair and you let it go down, you can notice that there's a slight little shadow coming down every time. So that's what I'm doing here. This hair is coming down, creates this little shadow. Lower my brush, which goes over right there. And bring it down, and we'll do these little strands right here. So this part of the mask is a little darker than the rest of it, both of this area right here, because it's towards the back. And I usually just like boxing it out and just coloring it in. As well as here. Like I said before, the light's coming from this direction. And if you tend to struggle with when to tell where the light is at, take a picture of something, or you can just Google an image of how light looks like, or just how people look like around different times of the day. Just try to copy it, emulate it, and practice a lot. Let's make this sharp right here. The beauty about having layers is that if I want to, let's say this is nighttime, I can make it darker. You don't want to make it black, obviously. If it's lighter, I'll go light. You can just play around with the opacity, play around with how light or how dark you want it. And that does with the shadows. So I like usually, now these are the highlights, or the lights in general. So light is white. And I usually like using this part right here, so next to overlay. It's called soft light. Creates this really nice illusion of like the little shine when you get, or when you see superheroes in their costumes, in their spandex. So I like I said earlier, light's coming from the top right. So I want to reflect it over the mask right here and over the brow of the mask. And the eyeballs tend to glow, the pupil area of the mask. So I want to give off this glowing effect. Maybe I don't like that one too much. It should come from the top instead of from the bottom. So I like putting the shine on the hair, especially if the hair's long and light's reflecting over it. Just create these like wannabe hatching for the shine of the hair. And it's never straight, so you always want to go like up and down. It's always random because hairs are random. It's never in perfect form. The masks tend to shine too because it's metal. It's not cloth or anything, so you gotta make sure that depending on the material that it is, you add your effects to it. So it will shine on the hair and the skin. So this area of the shoulder, the neck, the back of the head. Since he tends to pop out, he's coming from the side. Light's also coming from that direction as well, because he's outside. This part is probably the darkest, but I also like adding a little bit of the shine behind it, just for details. So like I said, the suit is like kind of like armor, so I gotta give off some reflection, because armor gives off a reflection when it comes to the light. So we'll go back down here. Oops. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, it's like I said before, when you divide them into layers, you can see your process. You can see where to start. So let's take this all out. You can just see the inks, the flats, then you add your shadows and your light. This is how you color a character, and this is how I color the alpha. So last thing, make your signature, and we're done.